greater security for people, greater benefits for people, and also ensuring more effective outcomes for most of it. We need to very creatively look for tools and opportunities to work sometimes, in parallel to the system, so that we move forward without having to wait until the laws are reformed. The same can be said for the evolution of institutions. We have in natural resource management, in protected areas, it's again a very clear example, but also in other areas like water management or forest management in many of our countries, we have very vertical institutions, very centralized institutions. Decisions are taken in the capital, and our decisions are taken at the tighter levels, and then they are parachuted on the local level, sometimes very often without any adaptation to the local circumstances. And in my country, again, it always happened that for many things happening at the local level, when people went to the protected area manager to say, look, this is happening and we need a decision to change this, then the protected areas manager would say, well, okay, I have to send a memo to the director of the protected area agencies in the capital, and then we can make a decision. It was ridiculous because many of these things were completely local. But still the local, the manager didn't have the capacity legally to make things change. So institutions need to evolve. Decentralization, getting in the example of Bangladesh, what you were saying about the local level capacity, I think it is applicable very often. We hope that institutions generally on natural resource management will evolve in the direction of what is called subsidiarity in governance. That is putting the decision-making capacity at the closest possible level of where the action actually takes place. So avoiding big distances between the local needs and the decision-making place, because the greater the distance, the less of the security that the decision will be appropriate to the local level. So this is the way we hope the institutions will evolve, by decentralization, the evolution of decision-making and power capacity to the local level and so on. But again, changing institutions is a very slow process. So we need to again find ways of trying to overcome this obstacle of the rigidity of centralized institutions. Now, this evolution that I'm talking about in the form of decentralization and subsidiarity shouldn't mean that supervision of decisions and processes has to be lost, because central authorities, they need to always keep a higher responsibility on the whole thing, the whole system. I mean, in the end, central authorities are responsible for the whole country, and they have to be accountable for decisions that are taken ultimately. So, some degrees of responsibility and rule setting and monitoring normally have to be kept at central levels, but the actual processes for decision hopefully can be transferred more and more to local levels. But again, this is a complex process, but it's a process that we need to also have it on our agenda, because it's a fundamental condition for effective governance. As I said, the evolution of institutions happens in this direction. And the final point that I wanted to raise as a key element in decision making is on natural resources, is how to combine the formal structures of governance with the traditions and the customary systems that communities very often have for managing their resources and for making decisions about the resources and the distribution of benefits. Of course, this changes, this varies a lot in different communities, different places, not in every place the same. But quite often, just because of a history of dealing with the issues, the communities have developed systems that are quite interesting and quite useful for making decisions, for establishing regulations, and all that. But sometimes these systems are being lost and degraded to a large extent because of the intervention of governments, again, centralized authoritarian decisions. So, how to identify some of the useful elements in those traditions, revitalize them, and try to combine them with the formal system. The example from Kenya in our work there in the pastoral communities is a very good one, because the communities have been negotiating there with the district council with a view to integrating their customary regulations into the formal system, so that there is a combination of both, which is an ideal situation. And in Latin America, we have many of those cases, because we have strong customary systems in our indigenous cultures. And in the last few years, we have been precisely negotiating with governments and the system ways of exercising their own justice and judicial systems on matters that concern their communities. And through that, there is much more ownership. Today, in cases where this has been successful, there is much more ownership, because they feel that they can deal with their things in ways that are more credible for them than just receiving decisions from outside are imposed on them. So, how to combine is then the question, how to support processes that can combine all these useful traditions that still exist with the formal governance systems to ensure better conservation outcomes and also better outcomes for people. I think is one of the important elements to look at. And in all this context, again, just to stress the importance of empowering women. I absolutely believe that in these processes, in most parts of the world, the role of women is absolutely critical. And normally, however, it's subordinated. But it's critical simply because women have responsibilities on their children and families that make them absolutely accountable. They are accountable to their children, and that's very powerful. That's a very powerful tool that makes very often women very rational and effective in the way they take decisions about the use of the resources that they have at hand, the use of the income at the household level. So they have a rationality that helps very often manage this better, and also with a longer term view, because they have to take care of generations. So I absolutely believe that empowering women is always going to be beneficial, and is very much needed. So with that, I end my thoughts on this issue, and I'm sorry I cannot stay for the rest of the time with you, because I have other meetings. But I wish you success in your talk. I think it's very important that you exchange views and lessons and thoughts about how to move forward. This is very important topics.
Comment goes out on the gender translated, so I don't know actually how this can be run this way. It's also very important to adequately understand both the cultural and social context of the operate at the local level, because often the case that there's good intentions to involve women, but it doesn't work because there hasn't been sufficient effort to understand. For example, when I worked with the Guaranis in Southern Bolivia, there was a program by the Department of Place to train women to work with projects. So they provided their women provided subsidy for them to come to the trainings, and they often had nobody coming because they never really sat down to say that the women need to take care of the children unless you organize some system to free them from those responsibilities, they have to choose, and most of the time they will choose to stay at home. So they never did that. So despite the fact they had good intentions of working with women, it didn't work. So I think it's very important to understand the context. One other thing is, I'm not so sure about it, but in Bolivia, the Constitution now recognizes customary law as a parallel legal system, which on the one hand is important because the recognition of customary law is important, but on the other hand, I think it creates a lot of problems and issues because rather than seeing where the abilities and complementarities, creates a parallel system which in a number of cases already creating conflicts. Because whose law applies and when does one law go too far and step on another law, and so that's another issue that needs to be thought out as well.
I'm going to have to leave this too, but I just want to compliment who are having here and sharing with us the importance of women in terms of teaching take care of the life of their own. So that's the main core role that we play. Because if we are not taught to be careful, then how come there is a kind of our mind?
Yes.
Question. So, where do we come from? From the centralized governance, the lowest power system, and we want to that the management be more participative, at the first step. That in our country, participation of local communities means that the manager asks for concert and then the decision may stay with the government. So we said that's why we are interested in the governance, because participation in the management is not enough. They have to participate also in the decision making. But if they have to participate in the decision making, they have to be autonomous from the government body. That is to say, they don't have to rely on them concerning their livelihood, concerning many things to do with the natural resources. So we vote, we act to empower first the local communities. The main challenge is what are the local communities? The traditional local communities in Madagascar called are recognized in the constitution, but only in the constitution. After that, it doesn't have legal status. So when we want to work with them, for example, they want to manage finance, they don't have legal status. That is one challenge, but we tried to have some committee to manage, the committee of the elders, for example, in the communities, to manage local communities before they are able to stay in a multi-stakeholder platform, yes. Because if we send them only like that, without autonomy,
Yes, you're very right.
So our work is, we want shared governance, but before shared governance, they have to be autonomous. Their organization must be autonomous, and that's one thing.
Yeah, that's a very important point.
After that, here are protected areas legally recognized, but we have natural resources between all government-governed protected areas, many natural resources. And these natural resources are managed or governed, not recognized by the law, but governed by the local communities. But they are not recognized. And one time, if the government say, oh, we want to take the mine here or to cut the trees, they don't have any
Legal
power,
power.
any legal power. So the challenge, second challenge for us, is how to give them power to have their say. When the government wants to, even in national parks, it happens. Sometimes there is someone giving, there are local communities with transfer of management. We have a law which transfer the management of some areas to local communities. But that is only transfer of management. When the government wants something, the local community cannot say no power. So, in my sense, governance is good governance with local communities is the first time the empowerment of the unit of the local unit of the communities, they are able to sit in a meeting.
Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you with your comment. But in a way, also, it has to happen in parallel, because you create some spaces, you empower the communities at the same time, because it is also the creation of spaces which will facilitate empowerment. So you don't have to wait, in other words, until the community is sufficiently autonomous and strong. You go little by little, doing both things, because also the community representatives will little by little learn from new challenges and new situations, and that will help the communities to be empowered. But of course, what you said is absolutely correct. The condition in the end for a system of participatory decision making to work is that communities are empowered and have the capacity to understand the issues and to take themselves decisions that are good and solid. That's the condition. If the community is not in a capacity to do that, then of course they cannot have a good position in the decision-making system. That's very important.
Not that, I would like to continue this, but I do believe that our chair
Yes,
is
I'm sorry that I have to go, but let's go ahead.
Just before leaving, we in this year, the government has recognized the co-management in World Act. It's a success. It's actually coming. Government got the understanding that co-management is a good approach for involvement of the community and the Indian system. They are very recognized in your World Act, which was developed in 2012.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Are you here for the veterans contribution purpose?
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Introduce myself. So my name is Omari. So, it's the first student at Southern Michigan University. My major